So I guess I can officially call this Ron's Rant 9.0. And for all of you that can't find 4.0, that's okay. So anyway, here we are in Edmonton. So I'm in a hotel room here. I'm working with a camp with KO Sports, and a great group of professionals and a really wonderful group of kids. So it's fantastic. So having a wonderful time. An interesting conversation today with some of the players, and I think the rant here is not so much as a rant, I guess, but I what I found is I had a conversation with the kids in the dressing room, and I was saying to them, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So why would you lead a horse to water that's not thirsty? And so, how many of you kids in this dressing room are really thirsty for information? Because I had walked in the room after doing an on ice session for an hour and 15 minutes. I said, "Do you have any questions for me?" And they gave me a blank stare. And I said, "Well, think about this weekend. You're going to be on the ice and you're going to be off ice with professionals that are trying to share information with you. And are you really open? Did you come here to learn, or you just come here to participate? What's your goal? What are you trying to do here? Is it just hello, hello? I'm out with some guys. It's kind of a cool camp, and that sort of thing, or did you come here with a purpose to get better? And so when I ask you a question, it's an opportunity to go over because we covered a lot of different things on the ice. And it's an opportunity for me to share. Maybe you have a concern about, well, where would you use this, or when, or why, or maybe, okay, we talked about this on the ice, but could you clarify it? But yeah, I'm giving you this opportunity. You're not taking it. And they were kind of looking at me with this weird look in their eyes. And then I just wanted to kind of bring up a story that happened to me. This is years ago when I was in my 20s, and so I was involved with the martial arts when in my early 20s, and we had a head coach, head teacher, instructor, sensei, that his name was Koyabe-san, Tamuki Koyabe-san, and he was a hand-picked, student of Seiji Taguchi in the Shuriken Okinawan style, and he was told to come to Vancouver to indoctrinate everybody in this new Shuriken style. And it's a Japanese style. It was invented by Seiji Taguchi, and so I found that it really suited my means. I really enjoyed it. The instructor had the same kind of philosophical ideas that I did, and him and we grew to be kind of friends, and we'd discuss different philosophical ideas in the martial arts and all those other sort of training habits and stuff. And we were told that Seiji Taguchi was going to come to Vancouver, and what we did is we fundraised to raise money, and we were told that we could ask him one question. So we would be given an opportunity to ask one question. And, over the course of the year of raising money and helping out or doing whatever, there's many questions that go through your mind, like how many fights have you been in? Why did you come up with a style? I mean, anybody, when you have an opportunity to confront a master, there's, a lot of questions that you have. And to try to isolate one is almost impossible. But so it so happened that this one day that we're doing this training, and I remember I was standing, I was practicing, we're doing this punching exercise, and Koyabe-san, who's the local master, was they walk around the room, so everybody's in their lines, and I always try to get myself on the outside of the line so that if I'm doing something wrong, I want the teacher to let me know right away because I don't want to waste my time. I just want to do it right, do it correctly, and try to get the feedback as fast as I can. So during this time, so he's walking around, and so Koyabe-san's over here, and they're walking around the room this way, and as they come around, I kind of look at Koyabe-san, who's the local master, going, am I doing anything wrong? And he said, no, you're doing okay. And then so Taguchi walks around, and I kind of do the same thing. And he walks over to me, he takes my hand, and all he does, he just moves it just a little bit. That's all he does. And in that moment, I had this epiphany that struck me and has changed my life forever. And what it was is I understood the difference between a master and a grandmaster was all in the tiny details. In the details that matter. And he wasn't really fluent in English, but he explained to me how when the hand's in a certain position, he just went down the arm like this, and it kind of explained to me that this is better for striking. And I was like, so then I would practice, and I'd do the other one, then I'd practice, do the other one, do the other one. And I was doing it slowly because I didn't want to miss that teaching moment, that important moment where, holy crap, I'm learning from a grand master, and this is the difference in the details. and it changed my life. And so later on that night, we had got together for tea, and the brown belts and black belts were sitting around, and it came my turn to ask him a question. I said, Sifa, what you showed me today, is that the same thing for everything in life? And he goes, yes. And all I remember was, my fellow martial arts are kind of like going, are you out of your mind? Like, what? So many questions you could ask, and they didn't understand the context of the question. And so today, I was on the ice with these kids, and we're talking about the minutiae, just tiny little things with their mechanics that created this huge change in their velocity and their accuracy, and trying to understand all these different things. And they're looking at me, as if I'm like, it's kind of a rabbit hole. You understand that when you're kind of explaining, fine motor skills and movements and things like that, and you're really into the context of why things happen. It doesn't appeal to everybody, because most people, I find, are most skilled instructors, and I'm sorry out there, but one of the problems that we don't really want to confront kids, and we don't when they're making mistakes. And I brought it up to one of the parents. I said, think about this. Like, how long did it take you to teach your kids to say please and thank you? Well, quite a while. So, to explain the process. So, we introduced the idea, and then you'd say to your kids, oh, you just got to say please and thank you. Oh, you forgot to say please and thank you. Oh, you forgot. Say please, say thank you, say please, say thank you. And your son or daughter never gets mad at you. It's like, oh, sorry, and they do it. And so until it becomes learned behavior. And we call that, and there's so many aspects of that. And that's the time for another rant. But what I found interesting is, and I had this idea popped in my head. And I said to the kids, I said, look, I'm trying to make you better, not bitter. And so a job of a coach is to, a teacher, let's say, a teacher, more specifically than a coach, but is to not only teach an idea, but to reinforce the concept as the player's learning it. And if you don't reinforce it, the kids forget. And so during the reinforcement, when you're trying to reinforce the concept or the idea, the kids look at you and go, are you crazy? Like, what, you bitching at me? Like, are you upset at me? Are you angry at me? And I'm like, no, I'm just trying to be a reminder. Like, you've only got so much time. There's so many skills to learn, and you got to get this done. And if I'm not reminding you, well, then you better be mindful. And really, kids today aren't mindful. Like, when do we challenge kids and say, look, I'm going to give you 3 things to think about today, and you're going to go to the corner store for me, and I want you to get some milk, some bread, and some whatever. And the kids go, okay, whatever, and they forget. And everything today is looking at their iPhone, and they get this. There's memory is gone, and mindfulness is gone, and mindfulness has to become a habit, because on the ice, the only way you can learn or get better at anything is to be mindful of what the context is and what you're trying to accomplish. And so I looked at this and I went, oh my God, this whole process of the grandmaster really impacted me deeply. And I spent my whole life from that moment in my early 20s till now trying to find the minutia in everything, because really it's what defines a grandmaster. It's like, what's your stick doing? What's your head doing? What's your posture doing? What's your shoulders doing? What's your body moving? How does it move? What's your edges? And so it's been a constant pursuit. And this occurred to me, something else occurred to me about 6 months ago when I was sitting around. And I went, what was really weird is, why did he pick me? Like, I'm sitting there going, was it my nod? Like, did I look at him and go, excuse me? And he realized that I was open to being corrected. Was it because he had watched me all week and thought that I was, I was open to his conversation or his criticism? Was it just fate that he walked over to me and went, I'm going to go talk to this guy? Like, was it my eagerness to learn? But what I knew, for some weird reason, in that exact moment, and you got to think, it only took me it took him maybe 30 seconds to do this demonstration, if that. It changed me forever. So now, if you think of a teacher's job, and so that really hit me. So every day I get up humble, thinking, what can I do? How can I act? What can I say to help a kid change in 30 seconds of my conversation, change him forever, to help him toward his goal? And you never perfect it. And I never had a chance, because he passed away. I've never had a chance to talk to him, say, hey, see if what did you see in me? Like, what was it? Was it just circumstance? Was it just you saw something in my eyes? What was it? And so what I realized that the most important thing is that in that magical moment, it's a meeting of minds and ideas and concepts with a perfect student and the perfect master, perfect teacher. And what they do is they blend. In that moment, I was obviously ready for instruction, and how we recognize that, I don't know. But when I look back in my life, I realized that every day I came to class trying to learn something. So I was always the horse coming to water. I was always thirsty. And what I recognized in a lot of the other students in the class was that they were there participating. It was kind of a cool idea to be in the martial arts, and it was okay and all that sort of stuff. But really, when I look back, I didn't think that a lot of them were there to gain knowledge, to So when I asked these kids coming back to the dressing room, I looked around and went, "Oh my God, these kids don't even know what it means to be a good student. They don't know how to, to talk to a professional, you know." And again, the other day I was introduced to a youth U15 team I'm going to be the coach of, and I walked in the dressing room and said, hi guys, how you doing? And they give me this look, and I stopped and said, what, you don't know how to address a hockey coach? Like, you don't know how to go, hey coach, we're doing fine, how are you? Like, there's this personal etiquette. And then today I'm walking through the rink, and these four guys are coming to where I was just on the ice with. I said, nodded my head. They didn't even look at me, and I went, holy crap. Like, the fact is that you've got to teach. Instead of saying, hey, hold on just a minute, hey coach, you're talking about some things today, could we talk to you? And just kind of conversation. The social etiquette is gone, and they don't really understand the difference between let's say a master teacher and a teacher, or just a skill coach, a young guy. And I've been doing this is my 49th year, and I'm talking about putting thousands of hours into research and thousands of hours into these things. And I thought, and I looked at it and went, oh my God, somewhere in their life, their parents or somewhere, instead of just saying, walk up and go, hey coach, that was thank you for working with us today. You brought up some good points. Can we talk about it? So, and these are the younger guys. So I'm sitting in the lobby, and I'm just sitting there and having a coffee. And these five guys come up to me and they go, hey coach, could we talk to you? You talked about some interesting things. And it was one guy that came up initially, and he said, we're talking about science and stuff. So would you mind explaining it more to me? And then a couple other kids came in, and we had this great conversation. So a level of maturity. And I looked at the context. So what are you doing, like, as teachers and coaches, to encourage these kids to develop this professional attitude, become good students? And so what I realized is I'm on the ice with these kids, and I look around quickly and I scan. And I go, yep, he's just here to participate, learn, participate, learn, participate, learn. And you realize this, and then you realize the thing that separates elite athletes is they don't have skill because they just were born with it. They have this capacity to acquire skills. So, I'm very fortunate enough to work with a lot of the guys, professional hockey players. And what I found that the elite players have the capacity to do is to learn. What they want to do is they want to get to they'll challenge you. And so I was, we went out for supper tonight with a couple, one of the parents and a couple of kids, and we're just having this conversation. And I said, how do you judge a great teacher? So give me a couple of questions that you could ask just to kind of define whether a teacher really knows what he's talking about. And it was a good conversation. And really there's 5 questions. There's who, why, when, where, and how. And obviously, if you're talking about the player, now we're down to 4, so we know who it is. And so the conversation should always be as well, why am I doing this? And then how do I do it? When do I do it? And where do I do it? And if a coach, and a lot of kids, I bring this up, to them to consult, confront their coaches and kind of get to the bottom of it. And their coaches go, you shouldn't be asking questions. I don't want to answer that. Just do what I'm telling you to do. And so, so what I find is this an era of where we just go on Instagram and we look at what other coaches are doing, and we copy them and we take their information, or are we really teachers out there that really dig deep into the information and really engage in kids conversationally and intellectually, and get them to understand that, look, time is of the essence, man. I tell kids, I'm in my 60s, and I'm telling kids, like, your minutes, your hours, are my minutes, and your weeks are my days. Because at my age, I don't know when, I could die tomorrow. I don't know. I've lost some dear friends, and you realize that time is of the essence, and it really points out a weakness in their attitude, where you got to think that by the time a kid comes up, he has a lot of fun. He gets to a certain age. Now he's got to worry about his Western Hockey League or OHL draft or junior draft. And then all of a sudden it's like, bam, 15. Then it's like 17. You got your NHL selection. Then you got your NHL draft. And then all of a sudden, boom, now you've got to make a choice whether you're going to college or the NCAA, or going into, the Western Hockey League. And bang, all of a sudden are you going pro hockey? What are you doing? And so all of a sudden these time barriers start to come into play. And so these kids learn a lot of bad habits. Unfortunately, they get to a certain level. And I'm going to tell, I'm going to tell one more story. So it's so we're kind of over for tea one time, and the instructor brings out a bowl of pennies. This is kind of crazy, but with martial arts and Eastern philosophy, you really can't figure out what the concept is. But you go, okay, well, I'm in, so let's do it. And could you stack the pennies? Could you just stack them? So we're sitting around this table, a coffee table, and we're stacking pennies, and we're getting to a certain height, and they're falling over. And okay, so Sensei, what's going on here? Like, see what's the purpose? He goes, well, so when you stack it, I know it's a simple concept, but you have to think of stacking pennies like time. So he said, well, what's the most important penny? And the most important penny is the first one you pick, because that's the most important foundation. So you have to know what your foundation is. So what would be the perfect penny? What does the perfect penny look like? And so we go through and we pick it out. It says, okay, so now what's the second most important penny? Right? Obviously the second one. Throws the answer right out there. We're like, okay, so therefore the foundation, you have to obviously, if you have a poor foundation, you get so high in the stack that it falls over because the base is flawed. So now let's just say that we could make some analogy to hockey and say, okay, if you could stack a pile of pennies 65 high, then you've built the foundation properly from the bottom up. And if you only get to 40, you're only going to get to college. And if you only do 30, then you're only going to get to junior A. Now that's okay perhaps, but when you aspire to the highest level, then each level is critically important, because each one is a foundation built on the other. So now you have to, what is the foundation? Well, a lot of skating coaches, for example, understand skating, but they don't understand how stick handling and skating affects stick handling. And then a lot of stick handling coaches don't understand, well, if you stick handle a certain way, it actually impacts your shooting. And then your skating impacts your shooting. And then shooting impacts your skating. So there's this merry-go-round that goes around where we have experts in certain fields, but they don't integrate the concepts so that we know how they all work together. And so, as a skating coach for over 30 years, a shooting coach for 40 years, all these things, and stick handling. And really, it's how these things integrate. So coming back to the pennies, like, what are the foundations of skating? What are the foundations of shooting? What are the foundations of stick handling? What are the foundations of selecting the play? And if we don't build those concepts correctly, then we're taking away that stack, and we're taking away our career opportunities. And so that's what concerns me, and that's what the kind of the rant is today. First of all, most importantly, we talk to the kids, it's like they don't have a sense of awareness. Really, everything's like this. So if they're not aware of what they're doing, and like the kids have no idea when they walk to the hallway, they should come, hey coach, how are you doing? How are you today? Or thank you for your session, or whatever. They do the token fist bump on the ice, and after that, it's okay. I've learned how to do that, and then everything else is gone. The social etiquette is gone. And so we're not building these players respectfully. Like one of the kids, and this is back in Vancouver with his team. The kid goes, "What?" And I go, "Pardon? What did you just say? Like, what was that?" And they go, "Oh no, sorry, excuse me." So here we are. We expect professionalism, and we have kids going, "Huh? What?" And parents allow that to happen. Yet we expect these kids to go to the highest level, but there isn't a pro player on the planet that goes, "What? Huh?" And so we just assume that it's all about skill, but it's not about your professional etiquette. So really, what do we do? And all I'm going to close on saying here is, what do we do as teachers or coaches to really change kids, to really, in that 30 seconds that we encounter a kid or we talk to a kid, what do we do to really impact them, to help them grow as individuals? That's Ron's Rant 9.0, and thank you for watching.